Prayut Chan-o-cha allowed to resume his duties as Thai Prime Minister after the Constitutional Court says he has not breached the 8-year limit for time in office. Now, police are bracing for protests. And we'll stay on that story. Thai Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha returning to power after court victory on his term limits. The Constitutional Court has ruled that he has not reached the 8-year term limit. For more on this, we speak with Dr. Termsak Chalermpalanupap. He's visiting fellow at the ISEAS-Yusof Ishak Institute. Dr. Termsak, now, the court could have chosen to say his term started in 2014, which means he has already exceeded his term limit. It could have chosen to say it started in 2019, in which case he has until 2027. Instead, it chose 2014. Some are calling this a moderate compromise solution. Do you see it as such?
Well, the court ruled that the 8-year term limit started on the day the Constitution went into force, and that is 6th of April 2017. Therefore, Prayut Chan-o-cha has 2 more years left in his eligibility to be the Prime Minister. So instead of giving him 4 or 5 years, the court gave him only 2 years. So that, I think, is a practical compromise, and that can be explained by the legal interpretation of the constitutional provision.
Of course, when we talk about compromise, we're thinking perhaps this might appease the people who might be very angry if he's given until 2027. On the other hand, by not saying, well, it started in 2014, so he's out even as of last month, you are not upending established people who might be a bit upset that you are overturning something so established. Is this why we might count that as a compromise? And if we do, does it work?
Well, it doesn't mean much anyway, because the 4-year term of his administration is going to end in 23rd of March next year. So less than 6 months to go anyway. And we are all expecting him to dissolve the House and call an early general election later this year after he hosts the APEC economic leader meeting in November.
But technically, Dr. Termsak, he could run for elections next year and he could stay for at least half of that term. So it ends in 2025, his term, and the new government will end in 2027. So he could have technically until 2025. Do you see Mr. Prayut running again for Prime Minister?
I think he will not be that attractive for any political party to nominate him. What will be the selling point of him in the next general election? In the previous general election, his selling point was he could bring security and stability to the people. But after 4 years, he did not achieve that. And therefore, I think it will be difficult for any political party to try to sell him in the next general election. And after all, he can last only 2 more years. So I think it's a big question for him now, whether he wants to continue.
All right. In fact, we're hearing our correspondent on the ground was telling us, and I quote her, the people on the ground in Bangkok are disgusted, are in disagreement with the verdict, and are in great disappointment. And they are calling for him to leave now. Opposition parties saying, do not hide behind this verdict, leave now. Is there any chance that Mr. Prayut might leave even before the next general election?
I think 2 hours after the ruling of the Constitutional Court, General Prayut already posted on his Facebook telling the people that he is determined to work harder during the remaining time of his Prime Minister office in order to push his so-called 3 core initiative to develop the country. I think he is going to stay on at least until the end of his term.
Oh, thank you so much for speaking to us.
But whether or not he wants to stand...
do continue. Just wrap this up, Dr. Termsak.
Whether or not he wants to continue into the next government, I think is still questionable because there may not be any political party nominating him for the premiership next time.
All right, thanks so much for that, Dr. Termsak Chalermpalanupap, visiting fellow at the ISEAS-Yusof Ishak Institute.